Hi everyone, welcome to Chapter 3. In Chapter 3 we are going to discuss descriptive statistics, and within that we're going to talk about measures of variation and a few others. We're going to get into range, median, mean, variance, standard deviation, among others, and I'm going to show you how to calculate all of those at one time or individually, so you'll have the choice of how you do it for your assignments. First thing we're going to do is analyze this data set that I've created. I've made it up. It's called average test score. I guess that should probably be test scores. And these test scores are representative of 30 students who took a given test. So first thing let's calculate the median of this data set. To do this, we'll do the equal sign, median, open parentheses, highlight the data, close parentheses, equal sign. Actually, we'll go ahead and label this as well, median. Now what the median represents is the central score. So the score, in this case, would be the score that would be the 15th highest score, which would be, in this case, was 82. Now we're going to do the mean. Mean is the mathematic average. And to do this, we do not type mean. That won't work. We type average. That's what Excel recognizes. We're going to do average, and then we're going to highlight all the data, close parentheses. So our mean is 80.4. Median is 82. Next thing we're going to want to do is calculate the variance. So to do variance, we're going to go ahead and just type variance in there. Variance is VAR, open parentheses, close parentheses. It's 210. All right, so that's how you calculate variance. And to get a better description of what variance is, it's a little hard to do without graphs. The book does a great job of explaining variance. Their definition is probably better than what I could tell you verbally. I highly recommend you look at that. And they're basically measures of variation in the data. And a variance of 210 for 30 scores ranging from, it looks like, in the 41 to 100, that's a big variance. So that'd be a large variance. We're also going to do standard deviation. And this represents the distance from the mean for a certain amount of the data. Once again, the book explains it very well, but standard deviations, these are standard deviations from the mean. In this case, I believe 95% of the data will fall within one standard deviation from the mean. So we're going to go standard dev, STDEV, highlight the data, close parentheses. Standard deviation is 14.49. Right, I believe this gives you most of what you need for this for these homework assignments. However, I'm going to show you an easier way to do it. I'm also going to show you a more appropriate way to do it. This is just the basics. Now these are, with the way we did standard deviation and the way we did variance is actually standard deviation and variance for a sample. This is not a sample set. Most of the sets you will deal with are samples. This happens to not be a sample set. A sample set is a small amount of data representative of the total population. In this case, this represents the entire class. So that is a population set, not a sample set. If we were only to analyze this much, this would be a sample of the larger population. So actually, these numbers are sample size. That's how you're going to calculate it most of the time. But I'm going to show you an alternate way to calculate variance and standard deviation. The mean and median would stay the same, but the variance and standard deviation would change. So we're going to copy these down. We're going to say variance of a population and standard deviation of a population. So not too difficult to do this. This is VARP, open parentheses, highlight them all, close parentheses, 203 instead of 210. So there is a little bit of a difference. And standard deviation, as you can guess, is StandDev P, STDEVP, open parentheses, highlight them all, close parentheses, enter, and that's a little bit lower as well. These numbers here are going to be a little bit more accurate. And so be sure you know whether you're calculating the standard deviation and variance of a population or of a sample. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to calculate all this at once. After I show you this, you're going to probably wonder why we just did everything we did. First things first, I have this data analysis tab over here. You may or may not have that. If you do not have a standard data analysis tab, or if you have a different version of Microsoft Excel, it'll possibly be somewhere else. You will need to install it. And in order to install it, we are going to do what I just did there and go to File, then Options, then we're going to go to Add-ins, and it's going to give us all these options of things we can install. And you're going to need to install the Analysis Tool Pack right there. Then you click OK. And you may need to close and reopen Excel, and that'll pop this up, Data Analysis tab over here. And I'm under Data, if you could see here. So normally we would be here under Home. I could go to Data, click on Data Analysis, and then you get all these options. And we're going to use this quite a bit. These Z-tests, T-tests, we're going to use all that. Correlation we'll use, F-test, and so forth. But right now we're looking for descriptive statistics, which is where it is now. I'm going to click on OK. It's going to ask me to input a data range. I'm going to input this range right here. Okay. I'm going to redo it. I'm going to enter the top row as well, even though there's text in there, because I'm going to put the label in the first row. That way it'll label the output box that I'm going to get in a second. Output range, well, let's have it output that thing right here. Just going to set a cell where when it puts in a nice box with all the data, it's not going to go over anything or get in the way of anything. Close that out. It's going to ask what I want. I want here summary statistics. Okay, summary statistics. Then I'm going to click OK. And there they are. We're going to widen this a little so we can read everything. It gives us our mean. Sure enough, they match. It's going to give us our median. Sure enough, they match. It's going to give us our range. We didn't calculate range up here, but it's going to give us the range. I believe your homework asked for range. It's going to give you your minimum, maximum, sum. So if you added it all up, it's going to give you how many there were. We knew there were 30. It's also going to give you your standard deviation and your sample variance. But you know from these numbers that it gave you a sample standard deviation and a sample variance. So if you have a population rather than a sample, you're going to need to do it manually. And right here for the variance population, standard deviation population, these numbers would actually be incorrect. Okay? So keep an eye on what kind of data you have. If it doesn't say whether it's population or sample, go ahead and calculate it as a sample. All right. So that should do it for Chapter 3 and what you're going to be asked to do in Chapter 3. Many of the homework problems that you have, several of them, if maybe even all of them, have answers in the back of the textbook. Feel free to double check your work to get to those answers in the textbook. But remember to always submit the Excel sheet with all of your work so I can make sure that you're actually getting to the answer the correct way by using the correct formulas. Any questions, please send me an email.